Hey guys, it's Threesto and welcome back to another video. Now, we're going back into our lighting tutorials, and today I want to do something a little bit different. Not fixing subscriber lighting or no lighting series tutorial, no. Today we're going to be doing some horror game lighting. Now, if you have a horror game, one of the biggest, most important parts of making it look, kind of have a scary environment, is making the lighting look very, very good. I mean, of course the builds come down as a big part of it, but horror games always have, kind of restricted vision. You can't see the entire map at once, blah blah blah, right? Especially if you have like an outdoor one, you're gonna have like thick fog. But here is how you make good horror game lighting. This is gonna be for an interior setting. Now, this is my Freddy game map. If you haven't played Freddy, go play it. It's linked in the description. Yeah, so I kind of stripped all the lighting off of this. It's just an empty base plate with a map. But we're gonna start by making some good lighting. Now, first what we want to do is get rid of all of this garbage, all of that. And actually, okay, we'll leave the sky just because we need a sky, but we'll remove everything else for now. First thing we'll do is go ahead and add some atmosphere. We'll just add this back in real quick. We'll also make it night just because we want the atmosphere to be darker. There we go. So at night, our atmosphere is gonna, be based off like our sky. So let's just bring this up to a nice round 0.4, maybe even a 0.5. That might look better. But we're not going to touch anything else in atmosphere just because that's all we really need. We will change the lighting technology later, maybe. I don't know yet. But with that out of the way, we're going to start messing around with our colors. Now, usually a horror game light, usually like nighttime lighting, you want very kind of dark, desaturated lighting colors like this. Now this is not the best yet, just because of all the other things that we don't have kind of going on yet. But I think in here, a kind of more worn out looking color, like a dark desaturated greenish yellow, will look pretty nice. Maybe a little bit brighter just so we can kind of see what's going on. And this kind of gives it sort of an old-fashioned, like tinged sort of vibe. And I think this could work for a lot of things, like maybe some old, like abandoned building, horror game map. Maybe not outside as much. Maybe outside you'd want more of like a bluish tone, something like a darkish blue, right? But for interior, I think kind of matching the warm lighting as well, this works pretty well. We can make this just a little bit brighter. Now, next up is our diffuse scale and specular scale. These won't really affect inside too much, but you can see it gives it a little bit of a bluish tint, which I'm not a huge fan of. So we'll probably just drop these down both to 0.5 for now. This really affects kind of the distance for diffuse. Diffuse really makes the blues kind of stand out, so we'll actually drop that a little bit lower. We're not really going to change much here, but usually we want a little bit of exposure compensation just to make it a little bit brighter. You can leave this off if you do want it darker, but keep in mind these next steps might kind of change that up a little bit. Our next step is to add color correction. Now, color correction is probably one of my favorite things. This is the best way to make stuff look realistic or cartoony or anything else really. Just with three simple things you can change, and then like a fourth one, which is kind of a little weird. But first we're going to add a little contrast. So just 0.1 contrast. That's what happens if you turn all the way up, but just 0.1 contrast makes it look already so much darker and makes the lights kind of hit the ground and make them stand out way more. But we're also going to reduce the saturation by a little bit, by like 0.1, just to give it a little bit of a more realistic look, because obviously like realism, you're not going to have as much saturation, even more a little bit honestly if we wanted, especially for kind of a sort of a worn out building like this. But next we'll go ahead and add some depth of field. Now, depth of field always looks really nice. We can go ahead and drop this far intensity down. You'll notice after we pass a certain threshold, which is like 0.22 or something, I don't even know. But after you pass that certain mark, then the depth of field will just instantly jump up. And that looks, I don't know why it does that. It looks really weird. Let's just set this to 0.2 because that is right before it gets really close, and we can have a nice blur in the distance. Now, just because we had the color correction, we're going to go back here, and we added some exposure compensation to kind of make up for it, right? Because if we take it off, then you're going to see why we kind of want that there. You can also reduce the atmosphere if you'd like. Personally, I think if you want something very kind of dark and, you know, close up, you could even increase this a little bit more, like this. That'd be pretty drastic though, but we're just gonna leave it at 0.45, I think, which is a nice balance. It's already looking nice and creepy, and I definitely am enjoying the vibes we're getting from this. Back in depth of field, we can increase our in focus radius just a little bit. This will kind of take away some of the blur. If you want the blur lower or higher, actually, you can obviously leave it down a little bit, but I think 20 should be a good balance, so the backdrop is sort of obscured but not the foreground. Finally, I think we'll add some bloom, and bloom will actually fix up our neon lights real quick. So we're going to drop the intensity down by about half. There we go, and we'll also reduce the threshold, or increase the threshold actually, because reducing the threshold will make it brighter. So when you have bloom, this affects neons. You can increase and decrease the intensity to change the actual glow of the neon, and then threshold kind of also does it, but on I think it also affects the sun here, these settings, but we'll just increase this to about 2.5. That looks pretty good. Now this is already looking really nice, but I know this is a cheap way to add realism. I'm not personally a huge fan of it, but I think we're going to add some blur. Now blur, we don't want to go too crazy. We're just going to add literally just like, you know, a few blur. We don't want anything too over the top, but this does kind of make it feel a little more realistic. And I mean, I guess is a sort of cheap way to add a realism, but personally I kind of enjoy it for something like this. But there we go. Now I think this lighting looks really nice. Of course you can always mess around with the colors, and this is pretty simple. Lighting is way simpler than you think. Honestly, I don't know why people aren't as great as lighting, because it really just takes a little bit of experimentation. Of course you're always going to want to mess around with your values and see what looks the best. You can increase your specular, you can decrease it. If you really want to make it dark, then just drop everything down, but I wouldn't really recommend that. But yeah, that's basically about it. We can check in future mode just to see what it looks like. In future, oh, this just gave me goosebumps because this looks really nice, and this works perfectly for a horror game. Now, if you're working on a horror game and you're planning to release it on all devices, probably don't pick future, because future isn't the most performance stable, but it does look very good. I would definitely get creeped out playing something like this, and I know Freddy does look way creepier when you're actually playing in future mode, because we did a little test for that. Now, that's about all I have for this video. If you guys did enjoy, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to go play Freddy, and of course join the Discord for Brain Lab, and join the Brain Lab group and all of that, because we have some good stuff coming up. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.